The ADL has accidentally debunked the anti-Semitism crisis. The anti-Semitism crisis that we were all told exists has been debunked by Hamas's #1 soldier, Hezbollah's #1 soldier, Iranian proxy, the ADL, the Apartheid Defense League. So the ADL has put out this aggregate congregator thing. They basically go through, they find a bunch of what they deem anti-Semitic incidents, and they log them into this database that they call the heat map. Hate, extremism, anti-Semitism, and terrorism. And it is the first of its kind, interactive, and customizable map detailing specific incidents of hate, extremism, anti-Semitism, and terrorism by state and nationwide. This interactive map lets you read details about specific incidents, better understand tactics extremists use, compare activity by type and or state, and access and download raw data. So what the ADL is doing here is they made this fucking database where they congregate what they deem anti-Semitic hate crimes or anti-Semitic incidents to basically bolster their theory that there is some sort of massive anti-Semitism crisis that we should all be taking seriously and obsessing over, because apparently Jewish people, specifically in America, are very oppressed, extremely oppressed. That's what the argument is, okay? So this has had an unintended consequence for the ADL. The consequence being people can read. People can just access the database and see what the ADL deems anti-Semitic. And when people did that, they started to realize, wow, all of this crying wolf, all of this crying anti-Semitism isn't actually anti-Semitism. All of these things that the ADL claims is anti-Semitic, is an incident of anti-Semitism, it's actually not an incident of anti-Semitism at all. It's very likely just an incident of anti-Zionism, which also speaks to the fact and answers for the fact that the ADL is constantly trying to conflate the two. The ADL is very clearly always trying to conflate the two, because if you separate the two, the list of anti-Semitic incidents goes way down, and it's harder to bolster this claim that there's some sort of massive anti-Semitism crisis right now. So I thought we should go over some of the claims, some of the recorded incidents of anti-Semitism that the ADL puts forth, and we can, just examine them, maybe have a little laugh here and there. I saved a couple on Twitter because I couldn't be bothered to go through this any more than I already have. It should be mentioned that there are obviously incidents of anti-Semitism, like genuine ones, if you go through here, but typically the actual anti-Semitism is coming from like skinheads and neo-Nazis, okay? People who have literally zero institutional power. Who gives a fuck? They're idiots. Nobody likes them. But that's not really the issue that the ADL has, right? Like the ADL is constantly sweeping for actual fascists. The ADL is famous for sweeping for apartheid South Africa. Didn't have shit to say when Elon Musk, who is very much neo-fascistic at the very least, didn't have shit to say when he was fucking heiling Hitler and all that shit, is cozying up closely. They're very charitable to the Trump administration these days, probably because what they care about first and foremost is the state of Israel, and Trump, fascist or not, is a fan of the state of Israel. So principles, when it comes to principles, this is an organization devoid of them, okay? James, friend of the show James, found this incident in the database. From New Jersey, anti-Semitic incident. An Israeli organization received postcards that directly compared the Israeli Defense Forces to Nazis. You can't make this up. I mean, for anyone who's familiar with the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, it's like this working definition that the International Holocaust Remembrance Museum is trying to put forth. And I know that sounds like a very serious and legitimate name and credible name. Of course, it has like Holocaust in the name. It does sound like a very credible name. But when you actually look at what they're trying to put forth, it is incredibly stupid. It's basically this working definition, and part of that definition states that if you compare the activities of the state of Israel with the activities of the Nazis, you are doing an anti-Semitism. And the ADL is of many lobbying forces that has been throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars every quarter to try and get government departments to adopt the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. So the ADL very clearly does believe that if you conflate the actions of the state of Israel with the actions of the Nazis, that is anti-Semitic. Now, if we boil things down to their fundamentals and we look at what makes the Nazis pernicious, terrible, it would be the fact that their ideology is predicated on racist identitarian politics and the exclusion of the outgroup on the grounds that they perceive said outgroup to be racially inferior. It's an exclusivist, identitarian, racist, settler colonial movement. That's what Nazism is. That's why Nazism is pernicious. It's not because Nazis attacked Jews that makes it pernicious. It would be bad regardless of who they attacked. They attacked Romanis, Serbs, Nazi proxies, Serbs, Slavs, disabled people. It doesn't really matter who the victims of the Nazis were. The issue is the Nazis believed in racist identitarian politics, and they were settler colonists. That's why it was bad. They were genocidal settler colonists. Now, if you look at what Israel is, if you look at what Israel does, the constant creation of buffer zones, the constant snatching of land around them, the constant wars of aggression, this is very similar to what the Nazis did, right? Lebensraum, living space for the German Volk, for the Aryan race. How is that any different than the Judaization of the Galilee? The Israeli project that states, wow, the Galilee is a little too Arab for us. We need to Judaize it. We need to create living space for Jews. We need more of Lebanon. We need a buffer zone for our buffer zone and then fill that buffer zone with Israeli settlers. How is that different to what the Nazis did? The Israeli mindset is predicated on we are superior to these people. These people are Arabs. We are Jews. We are superior to them. It manifests the most with the right-wing Zionists. But if you're going to sit here and tell me that the liberal Zionists don't also think that, I have fucking news for you. I have a whole bunch of news for you, because really the only differentiating factor here is the liberal Zionists are going to pay lip service to the plight of Palestinians in the occupied territories like the West Bank and Gaza, though I would say the entirety of Israel is occupied Palestine. That's besides the point. They'll pay lip service to the Palestinians living there, and they'll advocate for an end of that occupation and a two-state solution. They want to say that, okay, well, the West Bank should become its own mini kind of state that's ultimately subservient to Israel, can't have a fucking military, can't control its own trade. It is very decrepit, less than a state type thing, in the words of Peace Dove Yitzhak Rabin. That's what the liberal Zionists want. And the reason they want that is not because they give a fuck about Palestinians. The reason they want that is because if the right-wing Zionists get their way and they annex the West Bank and they annex Gaza, then all of a sudden that apartheid in the West Bank comes under full Israeli technical control, authority, administration. And then in the eyes of the liberal Zionist, it's harder to defend from accusations of apartheid. That's why the liberal Zionists don't want to annex the West Bank, because they don't want to have to deal with all of the, oh, you're doing apartheid. Even though they're still doing apartheid, even though still to this day within the Green Line, apartheid conditions exist. Apartheid conditions exist throughout the entirety of historical Palestine regardless. But liberal Zionists don't want to annex the occupied territories because it would make it harder for them to defend against accusations of apartheid. Right-wing Zionists don't give a fuck. That's the difference, fundamentally. It's not that liberal Zionists are any more humanistic or care about Palestinians at all. They don't. If they did, they would have taken the peace process serious. If they did, Ehud Barak, peace prime minister, in his opening speech in 1999 wouldn't have said, under no circumstances am I going to withdraw to the pre-67 borders. He wouldn't have said that. He wouldn't have said, I'm going to annex East Jerusalem in perpetuity. He wouldn't have said that. And his actions speak louder than his words. He colonized the West Bank 10 times faster than Netanyahu did in the 3 years prior. So I've completely lost my train of thought. I don't even know where the fuck I am now. Anyways, let's get back to it. This guy, overzealots... He's a bit of a cutie, that guy, actually. Who is this guy? He found this one when he was searching the database. So, the ADL states that a protest was held against a synagogue in Columbus, Ohio, and that is anti-Semitic. Overzealot says, guys, make sure you don't protest your friendly neighborhood synagogue when it hosts sales for illegally occupied Palestinian land. You would be doing an anti-Semitism. And of course, what he's referring to is the fact that synagogues in America host private land sales for illegally occupied land in the West Bank. This is something that some synagogues do. So if you were to protest that action, if you were to go outside of a synagogue and say, hey, you are selling land in violation of the 4th Geneva Convention, that protest would be deemed anti-Semitic by the ADL. Anti-Semitic incident logged in Lakewood, New Jersey. An individual yelled, fuck Israel, free Palestine, at a victim. I mean, as we've been over, Israel is an apartheid state. It's a genocidal apartheid settler colony. I think you should be able to say, I don't like that. I don't like that. Free Palestine. Free the victims of said genocidal settler colony. Free them. Free them. Like, is that seriously going to be seen as an anti-Semitic incident? When we think about anti-Semitism, that is a specific type of bigotry. It typically follows that in the mind of an anti-Semite, they perceive Jews to be usurpers, to be undermining the validity of whatever in-group they infiltrate, and from within, they will usurp it. They will jeopardize it. They will compromise it. That's typically what anti-Semitism has been. It's this innate dislike and distrust toward Jews. It's often coupled with disgusting caricatures of them as, parasites or things like this, dehumanizing vocabulary, calling them rats and things of this nature. Funnily enough, if we look at who is deploying that rhetoric today, it's the Israelis who deploy it against Palestinians. This anti-Semitic trope, this age-old anti-Semitic trope that Jews are like a fifth column in whatever country they're in, that is something that Zionists apply to Palestinians in the modern day. Benny Morris, who is known as a liberal Zionist. He presents himself as a liberal, reasonable Zionist, has openly stated that Israeli Arabs, is what he calls them, even though that just means Palestinian, are a fifth column. He calls them a fifth column, and he says that their slide into complete Palestinization is imminent or is coming or something along those lines. He's also called for something like a cage to be built for the Palestinians. I mean, if I'm going back in time and I'm thinking what the Nazis did, they were building cages for Jewish people. They were calling them fifth columns. They were worried that they were liable to undermine the state. That's a verbatim quote from Benny Morris, by the way. That's a verbatim quote. Benny Morris said that Palestinians are liable to undermine the state. They are a fifth column, liable to undermine the state. Something like a cage needs to be built for them. This is Nazi rhetoric. This is Nazi shit. And that's the liberal Zionist Benny Morris. So yeah, free Palestine. Absolutely. If that is your liberal representative of the state of Israel, yeah, free Palestine. All right. Anti-Semitic incident in Boston. At an anti-Israel rally organized by North Shore for Palestine, Jamaica Plain for Palestine, Alston Brighton for Palestine, and Concord for Palestine, protesters displayed signs with messages that included Zoroastrianism, yes. Zionism, no. That is an anti-Semitic harassment incident. If I said I'm against apartheid, would the ADL accuse me of being racist against white South Africans? I mean, the ADL probably would. The ADL did defend apartheid South Africa. I have a video essay on the ADL if you want to learn more about that. But yeah, the ADL was spying on anti-apartheid activists in the States and giving that information to the white supremacist apartheid South African government. They did that. Anti-Semitic incident recorded in Seattle, Washington. It's a harassment incident, so be empathetic to the victim. A flyer was placed on a lamppost that read, "Love Jews, hate Zionism." Dude, guys, I don't know if you've caught the memo, but actually loving Jews is now a horrific anti-Semitic thing to do. You should not do this. It's anti-Semitic. I wonder if the ADL is aware of the complete and utter fuck-up they just engaged in. They have to be aware. Their entire shtick is upholding this delusion that Jewish people are some hyper-oppressed minority and that there's this massive anti-Semitic crisis in the West. This is undermining that narrative. All you have to do is go on the heat map that they posted, click around, and you're greeted with shit like this. Love Jews, hate Zionism. Anti-Semitic harassment incident. How is anybody going to take this serious? Thank you, ADL. I'm telling you, the ADL has been infiltrated by the Qassam brigades. At this point, this has to be a psyop. Holy shit. Anti-Semitic incident in Seattle, Washington. An employee called their coworker a fake Jew. I'm sorry. Don't Zionist Jews do this to non-Zionist Jews all of the time? Don't they always do this? They always do this shit. I'm pretty sure Cuomo, the hot one, not the pervert one. You know the Italian pervert one? He was like, hey, I didn't mean to sexually assault her. I'm Italian. You know that guy? His brother interviewed Adam Friedland, and he was like kind of giving him a hard time for being anti-Zionist. It's so funny. There's something really funny about like a bombastic, arrogant Italian giving some Jewish guy shit for not fucking with Israel. That's really funny. But yeah, this one was committed by Jonathan Greenblatt himself. Yeah, exactly. It's always Zionist Jews saying shit like this to non-Zionist Jews. So I don't know how the fuck they're spinning this as an anti-Semitic harassment incident. Truly the greatest crime since the Holocaust. An individual told a visibly Jewish person, "Free Palestine," during an argument. What's a visibly Jewish person mean? Like they have a yarmulke on? It's gotta be that, right? Or the ADL can be doing an anti-Semitism here and it's just like some random person that fits into whatever weird Jewish caricature that they've concocted in their brains and is just calling them visibly Jewish. An individual told a visibly Jewish person, "Free Palestine," during an argument. Holy fuck, the ADL is washed, dude. They're washed. They're doing the Lord's work right now. At an anti-Israel rally organized by South Jersey for Gaza, a protester held a sign that read, "No to Zionist racism." How dare they? Incredibly anti-Semitic. I'm disgusted at how anti-Semitic that is. Get him, Johnny. Get him, Greenblatt. Thank God for the ADL. Someone had to do it, and my boy Jonathan Greenblatt is taking one for the team. He's getting all you anti-Semites. Am Israel high. I don't know, man. This idea that there's this anti-Semitism crisis and Jews are anything other than a hyper-privileged minority in the West it's ridiculous. There's this really great Substack article. It's called "Jews Are Not Oppressed" by Tariq Aknicolas. A very, very, very good article, and I recommend you read it. But while I have your attention, just this part right here I want to talk about. The privileged reality of Jewish demographics. There are nearly 16 million Jews worldwide. The vast majority, 85%, live in just two countries, 40% in the United States and 45% in Israel. The next largest populations, totaling about 7%, are in France, Canada, and the UK. The remaining 7% are scattered across other nations, each with fewer than 200,000 Jews. All top 5 countries with significant Jewish populations are high-income nations, with a very high Human Development Index by the standards of the World Bank, IMF, and OECD. Within these countries, Jews consistently rank toward the top in living standards, including income and education. The following findings can be drawn from the data. Jews reside in countries with the highest average HDI score, 14% higher than the next ranking group, religiously unaffiliated. Jews have by far the highest average GNI per capita, which is 3 times greater than that of the next group, religiously unaffiliated. Nearly all Jews, 98%, live in countries classified as very high on the HDI scale. The next highest group, Christians, stand at 36%. Nearly all Jews, 97%, live in countries classified as high income by GNI. The next highest group, religiously unaffiliated, stands at 33%. It's interesting because in the West, as we've just been over, Jews live a relatively hyper-privileged existence. That's a fact. That is borne out in the data, and I recommend you read the article that I just flashed on screen. But aside from that, Jewish people, no matter where they're born, anywhere in the world, have the option to move to Palestine, colonize it, and extract benefits at the expense of the indigenous people of Palestine, the Palestinians. That is a right that is reserved for Jewish people, no matter where they're born. No matter where they're born, they can go and do that. That's not to say that every single one of them will act on that and take up that opportunity. A lot of them do have gripes with it. They say that this is fucked up. But in general, as a broad description of reality, Jewish people in the West live very privileged existences and have the option to colonize Palestine. And the ones who are already there are colonizing Palestine and extracting benefits at the expense of Palestinians. So the idea that there's this anti-Semitism crisis, the idea that Jews need to be babied, and we have to obsess about their plight when the data does not substantiate the argument that they are systemically oppressed in any way is ridiculous. It's an obfuscation tactic, and it's used to do apologia for the state of Israel when it commits genocide and war crimes. If you really want to look at acceptable institutionalized bigotries, anti-Semitism is not among them. And that's a good thing. I'm happy. I'm very happy to announce that it is not institutionally acceptable to be an anti-Semite. I thought that's what we all wanted for however long anti-Semitism has been an institutional problem. We are at a point now where it is no longer an institutionalized problem, and I am very happy to report that. That's what it should have been. Unfortunately, now Islamophobia is. Islamophobia is, anti-Arab racism is. That is where our priorities should lie, because that is where a bigotry has been institutionally permitted. Shlomo Sand, who is an Israeli, I think, anti-Zionist or post-Zionist author, historian, he has some great works. He has a little memoir that he published recently. And in that memoir, he goes on about how hyper-focusing on the victims of yesterday, Jewish people, is actually detrimental when it comes to being receptive to the cries of those who are victimized today. If we are constantly obsessing with anti-Semitism, constantly obsessing with the victims of yesterday, when the people who need help today cry out, we're unable to hear them because we are preoccupied with a delusion of the past. The idea that Jewish people are the only people we should look out for and the only type of bigotry that we should be this obsessed with is ridiculous. And what it does is it feeds into this Jewish supremacy, this Jewish supremacism, this idea that the plight of Jewish people ranks above. It ranks above the plight of other people and the plights that are actually very serious and pressing. Today, the plight of Islamophobia, this is an institutionalized bigotry that has gotten to the point where you're having U.S. Congress people saying, I would choose a dog over a Muslim. That's what Randy Fine said. Randy Fine has alluded to wanting to destroy the entirety of Islam and its adherents. That's insane. This is a genocidal man who occupies a very powerful position. He's a U.S. congressperson. If a U.S. congressperson did something similar and said something anti-Semitic to that degree, he would be fucking canned, as he should be. I'd be the first to say, get this motherfucker out of here. It's an obfuscation tactic. What it asks of you, what it wants of you, is for you to hyper-focus on these delusions that Jewish people are the most victimized group, when the reality is the complete opposite. They are hyper privileged almost everywhere they exist. In Israel, they get to colonize Palestine. In the West, they have the option to go colonize Palestine. And if they don't choose to do that, they are statistically very well off. Statistically doing relatively well, much better than their contemporaries. We need to focus our attentions and our efforts where it's needed, where issues are more pressing. And I will say, if things change and anti-Semitism becomes institutionalized again, then I see it as my responsibility to combat that. That's what I see as my responsibility. If I do see, okay, that the tides are turning, anti-Semitism is becoming institutionally acceptable again, I would deem that a very serious problem. And I would be the first to combat that and to fight that and make a huge fucking stink about it. I would. But that holds true no matter who the group on the receiving end of bigotry is. If for some reason bigotry against Buddhists became institutionally acceptable, I would be the first to say, fuck this, we need to get a grip on this, this is unacceptable. It's just not the case with Jewish people right now. And I'm very, very happy to report that. I'm happy that that's not the case. Why would you want that to be the case? But again, Zionists kind of need that to be the case in order to justify Israel, right? Theodore Herzl, famous Theodore Herzl quote, "The anti-Semites will become our most dependable friends." He said that as he was trying to justify the need for a Jewish ethno-state on the grounds of security for Jewish people. Zionists are the ones who further anti-Semitic tropes probably more than anyone right now, maybe save for fringe neo-Nazis who exist only on 4chan and have no institutional power. If things change and anti-Semitism becomes institutionalized bigotry again, and acceptable institutionalized bigotry again, I'll be the first to combat it. But I see no point in obsessing over hypothetical anti-Semitism, phantom anti-Semitism now, when we see that the prevalent societal malignancies like Islamophobia, imperialism more broadly, Western chauvinism, actually cause real, palpable harm and death and destruction right now. Right now. So why would we fracture our efforts and kneecap our ability to combat that by focusing on something that isn't really an issue? Why would we not allocate our resources and focus on combating something that is an institutionally acceptable form of bigotry today? I don't know if you guys saw this. Mayim Bialik, she's like an actress.
I had people approach me wearing Zionism is racism shirts in a parking lot not far from here at my favorite vegan joint with my children. And the thought occurred to me, what are my kids about to witness?
Fuck off, dude.
Approach me wearing Zionism is racism shirts in a parking lot not far from here at my favorite vegan joint with my children. And the thought occurred to me, what are my kids about to witness? When October 7th happened, it just...
Come on, guys. Like, the fake sniffle, oh my God, Zionism, which is objectively a racist ideology, is racism. Someone pointed that out. What are my children going to witness? What do you think that person's going to do? What do you think that person's gonna do, bro? You're in like your fucking vegan restaurant in Beverly Hills, bro. Fuck off. They're gonna do anything.
Magnified. And it was actually Sacha Baron Cohen who said...
Oh my God, what? God, this is devolving very quickly.
When October 7th happened, it just magnified. And it was actually Sacha Baron Cohen who said, we're about to see the largest campaign of anti-Semitism we've ever seen in history. And I was like, what's he talking about?
That's really funny coming from Sacha Baron Cohen, who is responsible for constantly instigating Islamophobia and perpetuating anti-Arab tropes. I mean, this guy's movies are literally like anti-Arab minstrel shows. They're like Islamophobic minstrel shows. They are. He's a racist piece of shit. That's so funny that he's very receptive to the hypothetical future where his people are victimized again, but he's not very receptive to the reality that right now, Islamophobia, anti-Arab racism are very serious issues that are institutionally protected. He's not very receptive to that. In fact, he piles on to those anti-Arab tropes and Islamophobic tropes with his movies, his fucking dog shit movies.
That's what happened. I was afraid like a lot of public Jews were afraid. I didn't know what I was going to find when I opened the gate to my house. I don't live in an expensive gated community. I live in a place where people can see me walking.
Wait, are her children adults? Did you say that? Her children are adults? How old are her children? Because the way she's saying this, I'm picturing like the kid's like fucking 5 or something. Her children are adults. Fuck off. I have to look this up. This can't be real. So from what I see, one is 20 and one is 17. I think that's old enough to see a shirt that says Zionism is racism and not have a fucking breakdown.
I did not know what my children would experience. And when I saw what started happening to Jewish leaders, when I still see it, of course, many of us wondered, am I next?
What happened to Jewish leaders? What happened? She's making it sound like there was like a new concentration camp set up in America. What happened to Jewish leaders? Did I miss something?
I had people approach me wearing Zionism is racism shirts in a parking lot not far from here at my favorite vegan joint with my children. And the thought occurred to me, what are my kids about to witness? Like a big dude coming up to me as I'm getting into my car. What is happening?
What do you say?
That's terrifying. Oh, that's Mayim Bialik. And I said, get in the car. But I'm like, I have like a chill right now.
Yeah, it's
going
terrifying.
up the side of my head.
Holy fuck, dude. I have a chill. Dude, you're a celebrity and somebody fucking noticed you. Chill the fuck out. Could you imagine if this hyper-privileged, spoiled brat lady had to spend 1 hour in Gaza or even the West Bank? Could you imagine? She can't even take the fact that she's a public figure and some dude came up to her and said her name. You're an actor. You're an actress. God damn it. The state that you run cover for kills children, genocides people. Did you guys see the UN report that came out recently? UN Independent Commission into Israel's genocide findings. Israel continues to commit genocide and other atrocity crimes by deliberately targeting Palestinian children This is the state that she supports. Was I not showing you the video? Was it just me the whole time? This is the state that she supports. I thought I was sharing the video. I'm a very bad streamer. I'm so sorry, guys.
Because like whatever we believe, we don't approach people in public parking lots, right? Like with a
people.
Oh, a grown man approaching a 5'4" like mom, like what? You don't even know anything. You actually don't know. You don't know anything about me. And my sons would say to me, well, when's the last time you posted that you care about Palestinians? I said, I could tattoo it on my face. There's going to be people who don't care. Like, I don't understand the world we're living.
Anyway, you guys want to know something really interesting about this lady? This kind of goes back, it's a bit of a callback to what I said a little bit earlier when I said that Zionists actually perpetuate or have to perpetuate anti-Semitic tropes and anti-Semitism more than anyone in order to justify their state. You guys want to know what her great-great-grand-uncle said, who is he was a well-known Zionist poet? Here's a quote from her great-great-grand-uncle, Haim Naham Bialik. I, too, like Hitler, believe in the power of blood idea. Great work, guys. Least anti-Semitic Zionist